Brookfield is pleased to partner with The Urbanist on Monocle Radio. Brookfield manages real estate around the globe, collaborating with partners, tenants and local communities to bring Brookfield's properties to life. Being part of the wider Brookfield ecosystem affords access to data and expertise across a breadth of industries, in addition to access to capital. A leading portfolio of real estate, with a proven record of adding value beyond the buildings. Success built on relentless innovation, leading-edge sustainability, and the highest standards of design. The creation of places that enhance the very fabric of our communities. Brookfield, real estate reimagined.
Zaha Hadid was one of the most critically acclaimed architects of her generation, but her career was almost derailed near its beginning due to a controversy surrounding her design for an opera house in the Welsh capital of Cardiff. You're listening to Tall Stories, a Monocle production brought to you by the team behind The Urbanist. I'm Andrew Tuck. In this episode, Henry Rees-Sheridan recalls what became of Hadid's plans for the Cardiff Bay Opera House.
In the 1990s, Britain went on an architectural spending spree. In 1993, a special body called the Millennium Commission was set up to disperse funds raised by the National Lottery, which was itself launched in 1994. The Commission's task was to finance projects across Britain to celebrate the turning of the millennium. Some of these were small, like village greens, but the Millennium Commission was also responsible for the biggest and most emblematic British architectural projects of the era. The Millennium Dome, the Millennium Bridge, Tate Modern and the Eden Project were all built using lottery funding. All of these marquee projects are in the south of England, but a structure of a similar calibre was nearly built using lottery money in my home country of Wales. In 1991, the Cardiff Bay Opera House Trust had been formed with the task of finding a new home for the Welsh National Opera. And in 1993, the same year the Millennium Commission was launched, the Trust held an international design contest to find an architect for a new opera house on the city's waterfront. The competition attracted some of the biggest names in architecture. Part of its appeal was that it was implied, though not guaranteed, that the winning project would be funded with lottery money. This wasn't merely wishful thinking. The idea of a landmark opera house for Wales seemed to be an ideal fit for the Millennium Commission. Nationally symbolic, culturally ambitious, and architecturally demanding. 4 architects were chosen as finalists. 3 were well-established names, but the 4th was a relative unknown, Zaha Hadid. At the time, only 2 of Hadid's designs had been built, a fire station and a 3-floor housing complex. Both were small-scale and both were in Germany. But Hadid had made a name for herself among architects for her striking conceptual drawings of unrealised projects. She presented her designs in the form of hand-drawn perspective sketches inspired by Russian avant-garde art, which looked more like paintings than conventional architectural blueprints. Hadid's proposal for the Cardiff Opera House was in keeping with this distinct aesthetic, an angular, sweeping structure that seemed to hover over the bay. It looked like nothing else being built at the time in all of Britain, never mind Wales, not a country known for daring architecture. Despite the fact that Hadid was the youngest and least experienced finalist in the Cardiff Opera House competition, the jury selected her design as the winner. For its supporters, the design represented a bold new direction. The architecture magazine Blueprint praised it as the work of an architect unlike any other, and predicted that it would be the most significant building by a woman on the planet. But Hadid's winning design also provoked an intense backlash. There were already reservations about using lottery funds on an opera house of any description, because it was viewed as using public money to subsidise an elite art form. On top of this concern about old-school elitism was an anxiety about the futuristic, foreign-feeling aesthetic of Hadid's design. There was a sense that it was too experimental, an otherworldly vision that represented a cosmopolitan aesthetic elitism. Newspaper and television polls of local opinion in Wales indicated overwhelming opposition to the project. There was a perception that the Opera House was in direct competition for funding with the renovation of Wales's National Rugby Stadium, a more popular project. The alleged competition between these two projects, one highbrow, one less so, was described by one politician as a struggle for the soul of Wales. There was also a more sinister sense of unease that seemed to stem from Hadid's status as an Iraqi-born woman. Rhodri Morgan, an MP for Cardiff at the time, pointedly compared Hadid's design to the shrine at Mecca. Speaking in 2013, after she'd gone on to become one of the most celebrated architects of her generation, Hadid cited the Cardiff project as the only time she had felt professional prejudice against her for being a woman or a foreigner. The Opera House failed to receive support from either South Glamorgan County Council or Cardiff City Council. Despite the tacit promise of lottery money connected to the Opera House design competition, in December 1995 the Millennium Commission held a news conference in which it announced it would not be awarding funding to Hadid's Cardiff Bay Opera House design. The head of the commission cited uncertainties in the building's financing and construction, but there was a sense that the commission had simply caved to pressure from provincial politicians and a hostile media. Some Welsh voices felt the decision to deprive Cardiff of an internationally significant venue for high art was patronising. The chair of the Cardiff Opera House Trust, Lord Crickhowell, interrupted the news conference to call the decision shocking and incomprehensible. He added that if this had been a project in London, it would be getting backing. You can understand the annoyance of people in Wales that we can't get the kind of vitally important projects that London seems to be allowed. Eventually, a multi-purpose cultural venue called the Wales Millennium Centre, designed by the Welsh architect Jonathan Adams, was built on the site in Cardiff where Hadid's Opera House would have stood. The centre, which was partly funded by lottery money, is generally considered a critical and popular success, but there are those who still rue the lost Cardiff Opera House plan as a missed opportunity for Wales to put itself on the architectural map, and as an instance of Wales and Britain letting themselves and Hadid down. The last word should go to Hadid herself. Just before funding for the project was finally rejected, Hadid had voiced her frustrations about the debate around her design in an interview with the Financial Times. The problem, she said, is that people in this country have seen so much garbage for so long, they think life is a Tesco. When the highest aspiration is to make a supermarket, then you have a problem.
Tall Stories is a Monocle production from the team behind The Urbanist. This episode was written by Henry Rees-Sheridan and produced and edited by David Stevens. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast to receive new episodes every week. I'm Andrew Tuck. Goodbye, and thank you for listening, City Lovers.
On The Urbanist, we're always asking what makes a city truly livable. This September, find some answers in Barcelona as Monocle hosts its annual Quality of Life conference. 3 days of panels, ideas and good conversation with global mayors, architects and policy pioneers, all over good food and a glass of something local. Find out more and book your seat at monocle.com/conference.